Hello everybody and welcome back to Victoria 3, where I believe that this might end up being the final episode. We'll see. This might be the penultimate episode. Depends on how far we get. We have about 2.5 years. So we'll see how that goes. We have a bunch of market access issues right now and a bunch of electricity shortage issues. And those are kind of the same thing. So I want to go through and take a quick look at what we've got going on here. So the transportation shortages and the electricity shortages are definitely related. I want to address the electricity shortages first. So we can see this is fully employed. It is currently being expanded. I'm going to expand it another time. Here, what do we have going on? Well, this is not quite fully employed, but it's very close, and I'm going to expand that. What do we got going on here? 3% employment. I'm going to subsidize it and also expand it. In OB, what do we have going on here? 0% employment. Subsidized and expanded. What else do we have? This is just an expansion, no subsidization necessary. In Kazan, we have an expansion going in. In Perm, this will be an expansion. In Galich, this is going to end up being an expansion. Sounds good. In Tver, this is going to be an expansion. Most of these are going to be at least one expansion. There will probably end up being more. But for now, this is reasonably fine. So in Astrakhan, we just did. In Bryansk, this is already expanding, and it's actually already expanding by 5. That must be private constructions here. Okay, we'll let that be. I'm not going to do anything about that just yet. In Smolensk, yep, we will expand this, absolutely. In Rostov, yep, that's an expansion, but I'm also going to subsidize that. In Outer Manchuria, we've got this power plant going on. It is currently being expanded. I'm going to expand it again. In Uzbekia, this is needing an expansion for sure. In this area that I'm not going to attempt to pronounce, but I probably could, Akmolinsk, sure. That's absolutely fine. I like how I immediately contradicted myself there. In Ely, this needs almost certainly subsidization. And I'm also going to expand it. And in Russian East Borneo, subsidization. And I'm also going to expand it. Okay, so that's going to be a lot of power plants, right? I'm going to move this railway up to the top. And these existing power plants, I'm going to move to the top as well. There we go. We'll get that going. Now, we're apparently quite negative in our bureaucracy. I don't recall that being the case before. This is probably to do with our electricity shortage. Do our government administrations utilize electricity currently? They're on telephone exchange, aren't they? No, they're on standardized filing system. Okay, this might simply be due to market access. Telephones are currently expensive. Okay, that is also noted. For the time being, I'm going to assume that this is actually a power plant issue. The St. Petersburg Metro, okay, sure, we'll take throughput there, and the Dutch flu is continuing to spread. The Dutch flu is also a big part of it, almost certainly. But let's get these power plants completed. And that's certainly not helping our situation, right? Having the Dutch flu going through right now. Eventually, we're going to need to stop this pandemic response. The question is when, right? So we're probably not going to declare any additional wars before the end of the game. I think that's pretty clear at this point. We're probably about where we're going to get to. This is intriguing. No doubt about it. But I would be interested in dropping some of the opinion, or rather some of the autonomy out over here. The Dutch flu is continuing to spread. We are positive financially right now. The main problem, of course, is our bureaucracy and the fact that we need more electricity. And the electricity is improving as we get people hired in. That was to be expected. We're going to get a bunch of these power plants completed eventually, but that will take time. That's absolutely okay. We're also having our radicalism continue to tick down, which is a good thing. We're very happy about that. We have an election in 30 days here. The Octoberists are winning it, as usual. So that is reasonably fine. Hang on, was that a bunch of electrics industries? It was. Beautiful. We're actually really glad to see that. That's really, really solid. So that looks good. We have an available decision, but this is just changing our pandemic response. And we're going to... I think we're going to start going to minus 25% throughput here. I want our economy to start recovering. We can't keep it shut down forever, right? And this will be helpful. As long as Moscow didn't have the plague, I was content with that. But this is going to have to change. Okay, there's a liberal revolt down over here. Sure. I'm just going to send the National Guard over here. It'll take them some time to get there. And the election has happened. Righteous government 99. Okay. I like it. That's really solid. That's going to help our radicalism tremendously. So the Anti-Mask League is angry. I mean, we're not surprised about this. And we're going to ignore them. We're not going to stop our slowdown of the economy. Honestly, I think we're on a decent track for recovery here. The plague is still spreading into East Karelia, which is understood. So it gets that for 5 months, huh? Interesting. Very interesting. Well, for the time being, we got some botanical gardens, and honestly, our economy is in recovery here. So it should be reasonably fine. I'm not too concerned at this point. We're definitely running some electricity and transportation shortages. I do expect those to finish up. Once we get finished with these power plant constructions, I want to reevaluate our transportation situation. That will be the idea. So this seems absolutely fine at this point. I'm content to take this into Hearts of Iron in the state that we're in. I just think that we could get into a slightly better position here. No doubt about it. We're back to number 1 GDP, which is very, very solid. We're, of course, number 2 in prestige, and Britain does have a decent prestige bump on us. We could bump up our government wages to... That does not actually boost our prestige. Okay, noted. So there's no point in doing that. Never mind. That seems fine. Well, our prestige is absolutely okay as it is. Our GDP is top by quite a lot, actually, especially considering our population. So that is very good. Our standard of living is soaring at this moment, which is also fantastic. We're going to be seeing this ending fairly soon. Nobody actually wants to do anything about it. The Dutch flu is continuing to spread. So it's interesting that we're apparently getting both the economic shutdown and the economic slowdown. But we're also seeing our economy recover, which is very intriguing. I'm not entirely sure what we've got going on there, but we do need our flu pandemic to end eventually. The question is when? Well, hopefully soon, because we are going to want to go to war pretty quickly in Hearts of Iron. No doubt about that. We are back to being positive in our bureaucracy, which was expected. And our input goods shortages are significantly better now. We do still have some market access issues, which is not surprising in the slightest. What do we have going on here? Okay, more plague. Sure. That seems fine. So this war is, of course, pretty much over, and we're now working on all of our remaining power plants. So that looks solid. Very, very good indeed. Yeah, I think this is going to be our final episode. I'm pretty sure. We've got about 2 years left. We'll see. We'll definitely see. It's okay if it goes maybe a little bit long for the final episode. So there's another revolt play over here in Bungalan. And that's okay. We're not too upset about that. I'm going to send our National Guard right on over there to crush that. Perfect. So no problem whatsoever there. And we're going to target Ukraine and Poland fairly early on, probably, in Hearts of Iron. We're going to want to definitely crush Britain, France, and the US eventually. The question is when, right? We are the most powerful nation in the world, but it's not by a hugely wide margin. So that'll be an interesting setup in Hearts of Iron 4. There's basically going to be 4 competitors in Hoi 4. And that is, of course, going to be the French, the British, the US, and us. And it would probably go badly if they all grouped up against us. But if we can get one on our side, we'll see. Maybe the French Commune would be a good target for that. We'll see what ends up happening with that. And of course, we'd have to turn on them eventually. Okay, so Western Afghanistan is getting plague. That is fine. So I want to check in on that flu pandemic here. So this is currently the setup here. We currently have 8 states that have plague in it. Gotcha. And Moscow is not one of them, which is why our economy recovered. Makes sense. Makes sense. So that is fine. Oldenburgian proletarian revolt? Yeah, we don't care about that. That is absolutely okay. This is done, so no problem there. And our power plants are proceeding nicely. We are 18 weeks away from all of our power plants finishing. So that looks really, really solid. The Dutch flu is continuing to spread, which is not surprising at all. It will eventually burn itself out, but we are seeing our population not really taking any hits here, and that is very solid. Okay, capitulation there looks good, and our input goods shortages are definitely improving. So this seems very solid. We're going to have stormtroopers in 11 weeks. Okay, sure. That seems absolutely fine. Not like we're really going to be able to do too much about it, but I want to check in on these guys. Okay. As of right now, it looks like we can't lower their autonomy. Although that might just be because we're in a war. That is a theoretical possibility, I suppose. Which is fine. Croatian people are now migrating to Saratov, and we really like to see people migrating in. Russia could be the fashion capital of the world. Sure, we'll take 5% prestige. And that made the Lithuanians upset. Okay, whatever. So, radical Lithuania is actually kind of a threat here. I'm going to mobilize these guys. I don't know that we would be able to deal with them with our National Guard. So that's interesting. I'm going to take the National Guard up over here. This should be dealt with by Kishijuj, but we don't know that they actually will deal with it. So we'll do that. We are running a deficit because these guys are activated, but that's fine. We'll just continue to crush these rebels for the time being. Fantastic. So we want to work on this market access. No doubt about that. The Dutch flu is continuing to spread, and that's probably a significant part of the market access, if I had to guess. But let's get these power plants finished, and we can look at it after that. I would really like it if the flu pandemic would end, but as of right now, it's still spreading. Which is, I guess, fine. So we're finishing up stormtroopers in 3 weeks. We have most of the tech tree unlocked, but by no means do we have all of it. So we should probably go into, like, society and go for, I don't know, like... There's actually a lot of society that we haven't researched. Maybe something in production, like oil turbines. We have access to a lot of oil, so oil turbine, compression ignition, both of these would be pretty good. We could do, like, compression ignition into oil turbine. I don't know that we finish that before the end of the game, though. The Dutch flu is continuing to spread out over this way. It will eventually stop. Okay, stormtroopers have been unlocked. That sounds good. We probably have some mobilization options here. Actually, we can activate luxurious supplies up over here for the 10th, and that's reasonably fine. No, that doesn't appear to be any mobilization options. Remarkable. The 11th was not fully set up, so we can definitely do that. Neither was the 9th, for that matter. Cool. So let's get that going, or the 12th. Okay, so we'll get all of those mobilizations set up. Perfect. So that's going to be a little expensive. We're not shocked about that. The Dutch flu is, of course, continuing to spread. No shockers there either. So we have about 1.5 years left at this point. And yeah, I think it's very, very clear that we're going to hit the end of the game here. So that's absolutely fine. This is going to be crushed very easily, as is this. No problem there. War with both of them broke out on the same day, which is fairly convenient for us, actually. And our GDP is definitely contracting a little bit here. This is due to the pandemic. At this point, I'm going to say we can't risk harming the economy. We're going to fully exit our pandemic response because the areas where it matters have mostly already been hit. So it hits in Latvia, okay. I mean, this kind of matters, but it's already hit in Moscow and gone, so we're reasonably fine with that at this point. So at this point, we are going to see our GDP significantly grow. Human rights have been unlocked. I mean, cool. Do we want to do anything here? I mean, compulsory primary school isn't the worst thing. Will this radicalize anybody? No, let's get going on that. I don't know that we pass it before the end of the game, but we can try. I would like to have additional literacy, although we've managed to bring that up to 80%, which is really not bad. Really not bad at all. So we're going to continue to fight the Lithuanian religious revolt, and they're going to be dealt with very, very shortly here. I'm going to demobilize our National Guard. It's going to take some time for the Lithuanians to give up here. The question is, do we think it'll be faster to disband our army here? I think it is in the case of the National Guard. But this front still exists here. I think in this case, probably not. The Dutch flu has spread. Okay, that is fine. And the Lithuanian religious revolt is in default. Hilarious. I mean, they're not going to win that, and they never were, right? That was never, ever, ever going to be a thing. So that's fine. We'll just wrap up this battle. That should be that war over. Fantastic. And we'll just need to wait for them to capitulate from here. Brazil is siding with Spain against fascist Philippines. Okay, sure. This is in Azerbaijan, which seems fine. And we hit a debate about compulsory primary school. So they do what they need to do. Hey, we got the plus 10%. Fantastic. So that looks good. At this point, I want to take a look at our market access. Okay, so we've got a market access issue here. This is currently subsidized, and this is only a 25% employee. Okay. So the main problem here is probably just lack of people. Yeah, I'm not too concerned about that one. So in Armenia, what do we have going on here? A similar situation. Okay, just lack of people there. In Turkmenia, this could definitely use a railway expansion. We'll get that going. In Tver, this could probably use a railway expansion. Yes. What else do we have here? Yeah, you could use a railway expansion. We'll do that. And in Ob, that really needs people. Okay. And what do we have going on here? People. Cool. So in most of those cases, that's not the biggest of things. Honestly, the electricity shortage is probably the larger portion of that in a lot of these areas. So this has 0 people working in its power plant right now. So that's really just lack of people. In Tver, there is 100% employment in the power plant. I'm going to expand this by 3. And here, we've got this power plant with 100% employment. I'm going to expand that by 3 as well. And then in Uzbekia, we've got 100% employment. We'll do 3 there as well. Okay, cool. We've definitely been seeing our radicalism ticking down. That's looking great. We're in a really good position here, I feel like, going into Hearts of Iron, especially if we can crush China early on. And or one of the big 3 early on. We'll see how that goes. It'll be interesting. No doubt about that. When will this plague end? Indeed. It'll end eventually. So these guys are also going to eventually end. Hopefully. We would really like to be out of this war. So, I mean, we can't do anything here. We just need them to capitulate. And there they go. There's one of them. The other one is at minus 26 capitulation desire. They'll get over it soon enough. So, on this next tick, yeah, 10. So they'll capitulate next week. That seems absolutely fine. No problem there. Everyone does deserve a chance. So that boosts us up to 25% chance. Fantastic. And there we go. The Lithuanian religious revolt is over. So that looks very, very solid. Automobiles are currently expensive. I suspect that, yeah, there's motor industries in our private construction. I suspect that this is going to have a fair number of them in here somewhere, but it'll take some time to get there. Actually, there's not that many in there. We might want to consider going in and building a few of these. Specifically, it's going to need to be in Tver. And we'll bring this up by about 15. There we go. But I'm going to prioritize this slightly differently. So I want to prioritize the railways and the power plants first, and then the motor industries. We are probably going to need to work on infrastructure in some of these areas. So the problem here is just lack of employees in all of those, right? In Tver, this is going to need to be brought up by probably at least an additional 2. And the rest of that looks fine. Okay, So we're just going to do this. We're going to get started on those motor industries quite quickly. When will this plague end? Indeed. So we currently have 74 weeks on our construction queue, and that's after the end of the game at that point. Serbia wants to enter into a defensive pact. I'm going to decline that. And this is due a promotion. Sure, this guy can have a promotion. That is fine. Okay. So at this point, the question is, does compulsory primary school end up passing in this next year, right? Well, it just progressed into drafting, so that's a good sign. But, I mean, none of that really matters, since in Hearts of Iron, it doesn't matter, right? So I would like to get some of this construction finished up before then, ideally. And some of that will import, I'm pretty sure. But it might just look at, like, the amount of development in each location. So, for example, in Moscow, it might just look at the infrastructure and just import it based off of that, because things work very differently in Hearts of Iron, right? So it'll be interesting to see how it imports. I've never imported from Vic 3 to Hearts of Iron. We'll see how that goes. Should be fascinating. But we have, by a pretty wide margin, the top GDP, which is a very good sign. My main concern going for a world conquest is population. That's the main concern right now. We might be able to, like, I would absolutely love to take over China. There's no way we can do that. Certainly not. We are currently sitting at infamous 28.8, and I don't want to get Britain, France, or the US upset at us at this time. They will be upset at us later. Definitely. And we'll see how that ends up going. But like I said, my main concern... Oh, already progressing into voting. Nice. My main concern here, going into Hearts of Iron, is manpower. We're number 3 worldwide, which is a good sign, especially when you consider that number 1 is going to be China, and number 2 is British Raj. So that is actually a very good sign. No doubt about that. I wonder if we're going to be able to crush these guys kind of one at a time. That would be ideal if we were able to fight them just one at a time without them all allying together. That's my main concern at this moment, is those 3 allied together and problems ensue. Our power plants in Uzbekia are finishing up now. Our construction is a lot more efficient at this time. No doubt about that. And these motor industries are going to be wrapping up eventually. So yeah, plus 5.9 construction efficiency. Our radicalism is continuing to go down. I feel like we are in a very good spot right now. The main issue right now is the flu pandemic, but that is only a few states, and I haven't seen it spread for a while. So I think that we're going to see that going away very soon. And our population honestly didn't really change the trend line. So that's pretty solid, all things considered. An ultimatum? Sure, we'll welcome any dissidents. That'll be fine. Okay, so our railways are going to be done in 17 weeks here, and we're working on all of these motor industries. The oil rigs are going to be progressing afterwards, but we're going to have to do a lot of construction in Hearts of Iron. No doubt about it. I'm just hoping that the sheer amount of industrialization that we've done here is going to carry over nicely and allow us to really construct quickly in Hearts of Iron, because we're going to need to. We are absolutely going to need to. We're going to need to get ourselves some quality templates. I'll probably have to look some of those up because I'm really bad at making templates in Hearts of Iron 4. So I'll probably have to look up some decent templates for the current state of the game. I haven't played in a while either, and that'll be pretty necessary, I suspect, here. We'll have some powerful enemies. So that should be very interesting, all things considered. Now, it is about time to put a cut in, but we're also only 6 months from the end of the game, so we did have the plague spread down here, but it is spreading much more slowly now. Only 4 states currently have this. So that's a good sign. What is happening up over here? Belgium and revolutionary Denmark? Okay. Another ultimatum over here. Okay. Well, we'll see if the compulsory primary school passes, but if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. Fantastic. So these motor industries are, of course, not going to be done before the end of the game, right? But I do want to get as much progress on them as possible because I want to see a lot of infrastructure and a lot of factories going into Hoi 4. just a huge amount of factories, ideally. And we are seeing a lot of that finishing up. So with any luck, we'll have a decent starting position there economically. I say decent. We are quite literally #1 in the world on GDP. If we take a look at that, it is by a wide margin at this point. Almost 100 million. That is a very wide margin. And our GDP is continuing to soar at a, wow, nearly vertical line. Okay, that's what we like to see. Fantastic. And that's, of course, why our radicalism is shifting so much, right? No doubt about that. So we're going to see these railways finish up. We do still have an electricity shortage in Ob. I want to take a quick look at that. That is just due to not having people working there. A transportation shortage in Turkmenia. We are expanding that as we speak. So that seems absolutely fine. There is the plague spreading a little bit. Still in 4 states. Okay. That seems reasonably fine. So we're going to finish up some of these motor industries and railways, but I'm not 100% convinced that we're going to get all of them done before the end of the game. We'll see. I'm not sure what the actual technical end date is. I can't remember if it's January 1st, 1936, or if it's a slightly different date. But it's one of those. But I will say, Vic 3 is definitely the shortest of the games. I mean, you could argue that Hearts of Iron is the shortest, but I don't really think that because I just always blast past there's no real end date in that game, right? I just always blast past it and don't really care. So, sure. But in Vic, there is a hard and fast end date. And I don't really like going past it too much. I tried it with Japan. I didn't really love it. It was okay, I guess. We'll go with that. Okay, there is a revolutionary Sambas diplomatic play against us. Sure. And hey, there's compulsory primary school. So I'm going to mobilize our National Guard. We'll send them right on down here. We'll see if we get that crushed before the end of the game. If not, I wonder if that'll import into Hoi 4. That would be interesting. That would be very interesting indeed. I do want to work up our education institution if we can. We're lacking the bureaucracy for it right now. Okay, fair enough. Seems reasonably fine. Institutions are primarily eating that up. That's okay. We should see this go positive again fairly soon. I'm not too concerned about it. So we're going to have this motor industry finishing in 1 week here. Okay. I don't think we're going to see this motor industry finishing. 22 weeks? I don't think we have 22 weeks left in the year. We'll see. We're going to see some of these oil rigs finishing. That'll be fine. No doubt about that. We would absolutely love to have some of these oil rigs finishing up, right? We have huge amounts of oil stores, which is going to be very convenient in Hearts of Iron. We're going to be very happy to have those. No doubt about that. So what are our plans going into Hearts of Iron? Well, I would like to find a way to crush one of the 3 big boys first. Like, without the others. We'll see if we find a way to do that. I'd also like to, early on, take over all of Borneo down over here, maybe take over Japan. I definitely want to attack and take over China early, because that will be fairly important for us. We would love to have that integrating in the awkward way that Hearts of Iron 4 integrates, and we would love to be able to get the manpower harvested out of there. Mexico wants an alliance with us, and that's actually a kind of interesting thing for us to have, is an alliance with Mexico, who can help us threaten the US. That is definitely an intriguing thing to take. So we'll do that, and it is currently halfway through November. We're definitely not going to see this motor industry finish. We'll see some of these finish up. I believe this motor industry will, but I don't believe any of these others will. But that's okay. So that's wonderful. We're ending at about 400 million GDP. We've definitely ended at a higher GDP before. No doubt about that, but I'm content with #1 worldwide. Our prestige has not yet passed that of Britain, but we're definitely catching up with them. I would argue that we have eclipsed Britain, even though we're not there in prestige. We've beaten them militarily. Mexico wants to help us here. Yeah, I don't care about that. We're ahead of Britain militarily. We are ahead of them economically. We're ahead of them in population. The main thing that they have that is boosting their prestige is Canada, British Congo, mostly British Raj, to be honest. That's most of it. Cool. Well, we are about to have this end. One more week on this motor industry. So yeah, that'll finish. This oil rig will finish. Both of those will hopefully be imported and be halfway decent. War with Revolutionary Sambas has broken out here, and this war is going to be over, but I'm not sure what the status on that will actually be, because, I mean, we're not going to have it end before the end here. And there it is. It is indeed 1 January. Fantastic. So you can see here our standard of living wasn't the greatest curve in the world, but, I mean, it's Russia. What are you going to do? Our GDP absolutely was a nice economic curve up until the plague hit, but after that, it was basically a vertical line. Our prestige was, you know, about the same, and our population was a relatively steady gain. So, all things considered, I think that went pretty well, and we are going to be importing this in the next episode into Hearts of Iron 4. And we'll see how that goes. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Kentogan, Ali Lee, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.